It came from the deep, disgusting and red. It covered everything in its path, destroying all it touched. Okay, no. It's just algae, or coralline, not coralline algae, but the kind that you don't want in your aquarium, or cyanobacteria. There's the things that are the bane of any aquarium keeper. There can be many reasons why you'd get an algae bloom in a tank, including things like, bad water parameters, too much light. And in this case, even though I've been doing water tests that have been coming out good, I suspect there's something in my water that might be causing the algae bloom. Too much of some nutrient. The water here is pretty full of minerals. There's a lot of calcification on our pipes, for example. We're only about 50 miles from a hot springs. We're also only 10 miles from an active gold mine. God knows what all's in our water. And right now I'm only testing for salinity, pH, nitrates, nitrites, ammonia, calcium, and alkalinity. So things like phosphates, they're not being tested for, the levels of magnesium, those kind of things. And I'm not actually sure of the efficacy, how effective the tests I'm using are. It's really tempting actually to send away a water sample to be tested to see what I get back, particularly since one of the things in our water along the Chena Hot Springs Road area is arsenic, which is not a good thing to have in your water. So what I've decided to do in the meantime, before I have the water tested just to figure it all out, is to implement a reverse osmosis and deionizing system. So this is the system I chose. It's the bulk reef supply reverse osmosis system 75 GPD. And of course the 75 GPD stands for 75 gallons per day, which is what you can expect to get if you use the system full time. Not what I did, of course, because I only needed approximately 40 gallons. I have a 45 gallon container that I keep the water in. And so this system is pretty nice, fairly priced. I'll have to go back and look up that price and see if I can get it for you. But here it is. I mounted it on a wooden board so that it would all be in one place and fairly mobile. I can take this thing and move it wherever I need to. Now, if you don't mind sticking with this image for a minute, we'll go over the various canisters and what they do in the order that they are done. The first canister is a simple sediment filter. It'll pull out dirt or sand. Not usually an issue if you're on city water, but if you're on a well like me, that can be an issue. We don't have that particular issue here, but basically that first canister filters out the larger things that might come in with the water. The next two canisters are carbon blocks. They'll remove things like chlorines and chloramines, things that are more of an issue if you are on city water. Other things like volatile organic chemicals, things like that. The kind of things you would normally use a carbon block for in your fish tank filter anyway. From the carbon blocks, it then goes into the reverse osmosis canister. There's a membrane in there that is, in theory, only supposed to allow water to pass, with 99% of any other impurities being rejected. From there, it goes into the, if you look at the image, you'll see the single canister off by itself, and that is the deionizing process. Any elements left in your water with some sort of ionic charge are removed here, resulting in theory, pure water coming out of the end of the blue hose that comes out of the system. You'll see three colors of hoses on the system. The red is your source water, the water that's coming from your household plumbing. The blue is the product water, the final results that you're trying to get. And then you'll also notice that there is a black hose on there, and that is wastewater. And I didn't realize at first that there was a waste product in this process, but there is. You can't get as much water coming from your system, from your plumbing, to go through the system, so it rejects a portion of the water. So there is an actual waste product, which is kind of a bummer, but you know, when you're trying to get this kind of pure water, it's pretty much what you're going to be stuck with. Okay, so let's start hooking this thing up. The system itself comes with a number of adapters for hooking up to your local water supply. I used one that screws right into the faucet. It's got a little valve on it that you change when you want to use, if you want to use the faucet versus when you want to use the reverse osmosis system. Hooking this thing up is simple. Bulk Reef Supply provides an excellent little guidebook on how to hook this thing up. It only takes a few minutes. You'll do some trimming of the various hoses and hooking them all up into these little connectors. They're just basic friction connectors. They work perfectly. That actually was the first time I'd used anything with that kind of a connector and found it simple. So let's go ahead and go through what I've done here. Okay, I have put the water diverter on. Little valve here lets water switch between either going to the reverse osmosis system or to the sink, like so. I can't put it on full blast or it'll shoot across the room, but it gets some pretty serious water pressure going in there. Okay, the system's now in place. We've got our water supply on the diverter valve going up into the first canister. Water will go into the first canister, then the second, and then I believe it goes into the third, which is, the first one's a sediment filter. These two are carbon blocks. It then goes through the reverse osmosis membrane up here. This is also where the wastewater will be diverted. It then goes from there into our deionizing unit, and from there down into our water bucket. So let's go ahead and turn the water on and see what happens. Instructions say to start it slowly. And I see water heading in there. Okay, increasing the pressure. Should start filling the second one here. There it goes. We should get water now into the third. We'll then go through the membrane. And start coming into our last stage. First things to check, whoops, yep, we've got our wastewater coming out. And we should soon see water, hopefully, starting to fill the deionizer. Otherwise, we got issues. Okay, it's been a few minutes, and as you can see, water is dripping. So we have a successful system. No leaks that I've been able to see. But also, as you can see, you get way more wastewater than you get final product. That's unfortunate. So it took about half the day to fill that bucket. Again, that's a 40-gallon bucket, and the system's rated at 75 gallons per day, so that's about right. You should probably ignore the first 5 gallons. When you set up a new system, it's going to flush out some things. There might be dust and stuff that's accumulated in there, so you'll want to flush it first. So ignore the first 5 to 10 gallons. And then after that, again, it's just a waiting game at that point. You wait for it to fill up your container. So where does that leave us? I've been doing partial water changes now for a little bit. I'm going to do another video that'll have the conclusions for this and what I thought of it. But just the system itself is awesome. It was very easy to set up. Bulk Reef Supply has included an incredibly detailed manual that goes through all the stuff you need to know for setting up the system. I definitely will be buying more stuff from them in the future. Again, took only about 20 hours to fill the bucket, and I think it's going good. Right now, the only thing I have a complaint about would be the amount of wastewater. And looking around online, there's a lot of things that can affect the amount of wastewater you get, including your water pressure, how gross your water is, I suppose, is probably the most crude way to put it. Our water here, like I said, for drinking it's fine, but it's got a lot of minerals in it. When I put that the faucet adapter on, the old one that I took off was encrusted with calcium, and every month or so I decalcify the various faucets around our house. Sometimes a little more frequently, sometimes less frequently, depending on our usage of the water. But I'll come back with another video, hopefully in about a week, and I will go over how this system has worked for me so far. There's good news and there's bad news, but I think that's to be expected, and we'll see where we go from there. All right, thank you for watching.